Conservative radio host Bryan Fischer is going to talk about the situation in Israel-Palestine and also the history of the Native Americans in the U.S., and this is just as bad as you think it's going to be.
From a moral standpoint, this is why it was right for the nation of Israel, under God's direction, to come in and displace the Canaanites. The Canaanites had been so corrupt, they had so lapsed into superstition and paganism and idolatry and sexual immorality and savagery. You know, and God gave them 1,400 years. God said to Moses, look, this land is yours, but I'm not going to be able to bring you into this land for another 400 years because, he says, the sin of the Amorites is not yet complete. That's God's patience. God says, look, I'm going to be patient with the Amorite people for 400 years. And if they continue to sin at the rate that they're sinning, every time they sin, they're putting a little more slop in the slop bucket. And if they keep doing that, eventually the slop bucket's going to get full, and I'm going to have to empty out that slop bucket. But I want, and this may even be a part of American history, when we think about the moral right for the nation and the peoples that God brought into this land to exercise sovereign control over this land. Part of that equation, again, I just suggest this to you for your thinking, part of that equation may have to do with the immorality of those nations that were exercising sovereign control over this land at the time.
He makes it too easy. He makes it too easy. God brought white people to America and gave us the right to this land, which the Native Americans were on. You know what the crazy thing is? That was the dominant world view back when we did Westward Expansion and the Trail of Tears and Manifest Destiny. That's what the whole idea was, Manifest Destiny. We have, it's our destiny to take the land and kill all the Native Americans. Obviously, God allows us to do that. God wants us to do that. Kill all the women and children first. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. What's so amazing is that, number one, that was the dominant ideology, and number two, that anybody today still says that. At least rational people are willing to admit, like, yeah, what we did was kind of fucked up. Just like, you know, go talk to somebody whose grandfather was a Nazi, and they'll be like, yep, that was fucked up. Who goes, well, you know, the gas chambers weren't all bad, were they? Oh, God. Bryan, stop talking. Just stop talking. And I like how he's kind of admitting about the situation in Israel-Palestine, how fucked up it is. Like, that's the context underneath his ridiculous comments. He's like, well, God says that Israel should displace the people on the land. In other words, Israel should take over all of the Palestinian territories and just fucking kick them out. What should they do, Bryan? Should they do the same thing that the U.S. did to the Native Americans? Is that what they should do? Kill 90% of them and give the rest tax-free casinos? And then act like we're the kindest to them ever, like John Stossel said? You know, those Native Americans, they get a lot from the U.S. government. God. It's conservative thinkers, man. You know what it is? It's unique among conservative thinkers that they're just flat out incapable of seeing a situation from the other person's perspective. And it's not that hard. Like, you don't have to be all that objective or all that bright to do it. I'm an idiot, but I can see if I was a Native American and then white people come to the land and just start slaughtering everybody, that's fucked up. I could see that if I'm a Palestinian and I get kicked off my land and Israel pushes further and further from the 1947 border to the 1967 border to the border today, it's like, okay, well, what do you do? Stop. Oh, fuck, you're killing a lot of people. Oh, fuck, you're pushing us on a smaller part of land. This is fucked up, man. But Bryan Fischer's like, no, I refuse to see it from the Palestinians' perspective. I refuse to see it from a Native American's perspective. God gave us the right to this. And it goes back to the same point I make all the time, man. This is one of the main reasons why religion is so dangerous, because when you define yourself as the good guy from the beginning, well, then it doesn't matter what you do after the fact, because you've already decided you're the good guy. So if you say, well, I'm the good guy, and therefore I got to slaughter these Native Americans, therefore I got to kick these Palestinians off the land, well, then you're not the good guy. Actions matter in this world. Actions are what matters, but this guy refuses to see morality and immorality in terms of actions. He just views different groups as moral or immoral. Americans are moral by definition. Christians are moral by definition. Jews are moral by definition. The goddamn pagans and the goddamn Native Americans and the goddamn Muslims, they're immoral by definition. And finally, did you even hear the reasons he gave about why Native Americans should have been kicked off the land and there should have been a genocide and why the Palestinians should be kicked off their land, etc.? The reason he gave was, well, you know, they're fucking worshiping pagan gods and there's sexual immorality and they're savages. The irony of him calling them savages as they, of course, do the savage acts. But that's it, paganism and sexual immorality. So they don't worship your goofy god, therefore you want to kill them. And sometimes gay people exist, so you want to kick them off their land and kill them. But I know, Bryan, they're the immoral people, not you.